Right, a very warm welcome back. If you've just joined us, this is the latest in the series of New Age Business Briefings brought to you by the SABC, and today sponsored by JIC Mining Services, and we're talking about state capture. Is this a new phenomena? We've heard from one of our panelists already, Pinky Khoabane, who says that this is nothing new, but it seems as if it's a new phenomena because it's hit the media recently, and the Gupta family's name has come up, but perhaps their tiny contribution to this equation, and that the story is much bigger and has been running much longer than we'd like to think. Well, we're going to continue to explore that story now, but before that, let's go to Nazim Hoa, who's the CEO of Oak Bay Investments, owned by the Gupta family. And I asked you before the break, have the Guptas captured the state?
Thank you, Peter, and a very good question to start off with. But if you were my teacher and you were to grade me on state capture, I think I'll get an H like some other political leader for state capture. At this, in our latest audited financials, we have 1% of our turnover coming from government. And we can break that 1% any way you want to. I think out of our media company, we have 3.4% of total government's ad spend. In the rest of our business, our biggest profit generator is JIC Mining Services. It doesn't have a single state contract. Our media company is the smallest element of our business. In terms of our relationship with Eskom, our first supply of coal with Eskom happened in March last year. To date, I think our revenues out of Eskom come to about 400 million out of 50 billion that Eskom pays in terms of coal supply agreements. So we really are nothing in terms of state capture. I think it's become a sideshow, the question of state capture. And to correct you, the shareholders or any of our professional CEOs who run any part of our business have never spoken about its ability to capture state or even appoint ministers. It's really been something driven by media and other operations. But we've never spoken about that issue. In terms of Eskom itself, we hope to buy Optimum coal mine. That will take us to 5% of Eskom's total coal supply that we would give. 4 other companies supply 80% of Eskom's total coal. So we really are nothing in terms of doing business with state.
All right. So I'm going to ask a number of other questions when we come back, but you're giving me an economic blueprint. State capture doesn't necessarily have to translate into a huge percentage. If you can influence the people that are running the state, that in itself would be state capture. So have the Guptas been able to influence President Zuma or the ANC in any way?
One would then have to assume that we have a puppet government in place to say that we can influence any political leader. And I don't believe that any of our leaders can be called puppet in any way or other, in any manner or form. But, if you're going to talk about state capture, you have to say to what end would you try and influence state? And as business people, you must say you're trying to capture the state to grow your business. I'm saying to you 1% of our turnover, audited by KPMG. So for what, I think it's really been a sideshow, and I think my colleague on the right asked a question, what has caused this? Why is this a debate right now? And we've asked ourselves the same question. We're primarily business people, we want to do business, we don't want to get involved in politics. And we thought about it, and we looked at the cycles around which these debates around us have happened. And they've been deliberate cycles, if I can call it that, clearly identifiable cycles. And what have those cycles been? We launched, our group was launched many, many years ago with Sahara Computers, and we changed the industry very, very minutely by moving from a high margin to a low margin, high volume business. So we really dropped the price of consumables. We dropped the price of computers. And it caused a stir in the market because the existing businesses felt impact into their business. That was the first of the cycle. The second of the cycle was, and I have to admit I was on the other side for that, was with the launch of New Age, where my good colleague Motsoeneng and myself were at Independent. And we didn't really want this launch of New Age because we saw it as a disruptor. We saw it as something that's going to disrupt a very settled industry, something that would challenge the existing status quo. If you remember, the media went through a very tough period at that point from an advertising point of view. So did we really want another competitor? I'm speaking from that side. Did we want another competitor to come in and start taking a slice of that pie? So that was the second kind of hit. The third one I want to say to you is the purchase of Optimum Coal Mine. It's one of the great coal mines in our country. It's never been owned by a black-owned business. This one is owned by a black-owned business. Yes, the president's son is a shareholder, but he's been a shareholder in our business for many, many, many years.
All right.
But this is a major change in the industry. And if I can just finish, please, Peter. What has Optimum done for the industry? You know, people wrote off the coal industry a few months ago. Since we bought the coal industry, bought into the coal industry, it's become the new gold. Everybody's talked about it, everybody's focused about it. I want to give you a little anecdote about the coal business. Not around Optimum, but another mine which Eskom ended a contract, a mine called Arnott. We were accused of being behind the closure of the mine, which supplies the Arnott power station. We had nothing to do with it. In fact, Eskom any day now will announce the permanent supplier for Arnott. We're not even amongst the shortlist because we haven't applied for it. But in the 3 months so far, Eskom has put out short-term contracts. The old supply is one of those short-term contracts. There's 6 others, I think. We're one of them. From an average price of, I think, 960 a ton. The rest of us are all getting 480 a ton. Eskom is saving 2 billion by that single action. So, you know, if it's state capture, it's actually benefiting consumers and our country as a whole.
Right. We'll explore all of that in greater detail, but I just want to hear the other voices on the panel. Leon, I'm interested to hear your view because the Free Market Foundation has been running for many, many years now, and you've lived through a lot of cycles, actually, if we borrow Nazim's analogy. And I'm just wondering, what have you seen? Pinky Khoabane talks about state capture not being a new phenomenon at all. Is this something that you've seen before, again and again?
Yes, of course. Everyone wants to capture the state. Everyone wants to influence the state, and I pay tribute to Nazim for saying that they want to influence the government. Of course they do. So does civil society. That's my job. My job is to try and influence the government. Am I guilty of state capture or attempted state capture? And sometimes we succeed. Is that state capture? During the old dark days of apartheid, when I'm pleased to say to this panel, I was one of the anti-apartheid activists, the Broederbond, as was said, had what you might call some form of state capture. And I want to just make the observation that the Broederbond represented largely working class or technician levels of white Afrikaner, mainly men. The leading business people, many of them refused to have anything to do with it. The Ruperts, for example, resolutely opposed it, never gave a cent to either the ruling party at the time. So there was state capture by people who were not in business. They were teachers and postal workers and so on. And then, yes, everyone should be free and does. That's what you do. You, Peter, are one of the people, and the people on this panel all are working at trying to capture the state, meaning trying to influence it. The issue really becomes problematic where it's a constitutional issue, in my view. The state or the government should not be up for capture. It should listen to, and does listen to, people trying to influence it. It obviously is under some sort of pressure when there are financial interests for the people individually or for the government. But wanting to influence the state, that's what trade unions do, it's what civil society does, it was what New Age does, it was what the business community does, everyone does it. And so the issue is really you want a constitutional government that is neutral and independent, and all of the efforts to capture it should not succeed. They should fail.
Okay. So
and if it allows itself to be captured, or the people in it allow themselves to be captured, that is reprehensible and that is unconstitutional. But the attempt to capture, that's what everyone in this room does.
Okay, so it's the notion of capture that we're shining a negative light to it, but what you're saying is when that influence becomes illegal and breaking the Constitution, that's when capture is a bad thing. But before that line, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a normal course of business. We're going to have to take another break. I know Hlaudi is going to be pleased with that because that means we're making money. And then when we come back, we'll get your thoughts, Aubrey Matshiqi.